Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in for another Coffee with Kittl. Today I've got Andy, and we are going to be talking about CNC. We're going to talk about crafting, turning your hobby or going from this desire to have a hobby into actually making some money with it, which Andy teaches really well on his YouTube channel, which is linked down in the description, by the way, for you to check out. And this is a great conversation because we're prepped. Previously, I had on Steve from Steve Makes Everything, and we talked more about CNC laser engraving, these things that maybe kind of sound a little scary to people getting into the craft because it's, it can be expensive. It's like, that looks like a lot of work, right? But we talked a lot about transitioning into that as a hobby and what you need to do for it as a hobby, what you might want to buy, what you can get started with, budget-friendly things, all the way up to, okay, here's maybe like the maximized massive workspace you could have if you want to make money with it. And so we're prepped really well for this conversation, I think, because you teach a lot of that geared towards the person that's moving from hobby into business or hobby into side income or whatever. Yeah. And so what I kind of want to ask you first is, can you give me an idea of who might be fit for starting a business? So obviously the quick answer to this is like someone that is already familiar with CNC. Mm-hmm. And that's like fine. That's a fine answer. But I'm wondering if there's still some of those people that are on the edge and they're on the fence. They're not sure whether they should go for it. They have a little bit of they obviously have some technical knowledge maybe in using Kittl or another program, or they've like had a friend that's doing laser engraving or CNC and they're just kind of on the edge. Maybe if you could give us some idea of people that would be a good fit for leaning into this as more of just a hobby, I guess, like maybe where they are in life or what their skills are. I don't know if that question makes sense. Maybe you can interpret it better than I can.
Yeah. So no, I think that's great. And thanks for having me, by the way. This is,
absolutely.
I think this is a perfect kind of match. I know, it'd be a great conversation. So, but yeah, I think there's, as you were talking there's several things that popped in my head.
Okay.
And I'm going to kind of throw them out here. And, so one, that I see a lot, I guess kind of, not type of person, but with a background in IT, believe it or not. I see a lot of people that I've worked with in different ways with an IT background in all kinds of different IT settings. I've learned more about IT. I don't have an IT background. Than I would have thought. But yeah, so that's kind of unique. People really wouldn't think of that. Okay. But if you kind of like reverse engineer that thought process, it kind of makes complete sense, right? Like
how so?
With CNC, there's a technical aspect, the design aspect, the setting up like the tool paths and to actually cut out your project. So it kind of their background lends to the technology part of it, but it's different enough where they're still, now I mainly CNC woodworking. Yeah. So it's kind of like, technical woodworking. So they're still able to kind of use their hands and get that woodworking feel. And, they're not sitting at a desk programming all day or looking at that type of stuff. So it's a skill set that they have, a comfort level that they have, and it's almost an artistic expression.
Wow. That's good.
And interesting enough, so you mentioned that I talk about making money with CNC. The typical IT person really doesn't have any sales experience. Like, and it's a really foreign concept to like, okay, they can make it like this is a hobby. But I want to make a little bit of money. Like I want my hobby to pay for itself, or, I want to save up for a family vacation or something along those lines. Like, and so that's really where my expertise kind of comes in, and the entrepreneurial,
right.
What sells, how to sell it. Yeah, so I know that was just one specific use case, but I do see a lot of IT um, people with IT backgrounds.
That is so interesting and not at all what I thought you were going to say, because I think what's so, I mean, I have a Cricut, right? And even my knowledge is extremely minimal. I know that's very different from CNC. It's still cutting something, by the
Yeah,
way.
this general concept. Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
but I had to FaceTime a friend that has it, because I was like, look, man, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I need you to walk me through. And so he literally, we're on FaceTime, and he's like, okay, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna put that vinyl on this sheet, and then you're gonna put that sheet in here, and then you got to connect it. And so I just had him go through, and that's why his channel is like yours. And other people who do the same thing is like, okay, look, here's what you're gonna do to do this, and then you're taking the next step and saying, here's how you make money. But
Yeah.
the reason that the reason in telling that quick story is because those are the kind of people in my mind that I would think do first, which now that you say what you've said doesn't feel like the case. Because in my mind, progressively, it's like, okay, I have this hobby for crafting. I have a Cricut. I grew out of that Cricut, so I bought I bought
Mm.
the better Cricut. I grew out of that. I bought a sublimation machine. Now I mean, but I can't like, okay, maybe I bought a 3D printer. That's another category, by the way,
Mhm.
that people maybe that move over to. And then it's like, in my mind, that progression is like, okay, I'm going to end up in CNC, like actually building
Mm.
like a desk or something. Now I think that's the case, but what you're saying, and you let me know if this is correlated, but you're saying this background in IT, immediately what popped in my mind, I was like, oh, what about like architecture, like people that are like architects, or like making blueprints, or using Blender or something and 3D modeling something. Like, I feel like those people also would meet the criteria that you've kind of said, with the experience, the technical experience, that want a hobby, they want to have a hobby that pays for itself, and they can use those technical or programming or developing skills to do the same thing. So what do you think? Is that
Yeah, yeah. I would put them in the same kind of
okay?
group, for sure. Um, the uh, it's interesting because another path that I see, and this could still be people with IT backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Another path that I see a lot are similar to what you're saying, like the progression, but they come from strictly a woodworking background. So,
But
like,
not with the like carving out side of things. Like
right,
they
right,
themselves do the technical woodworking is just them by hand.
yeah. So they'll have like more traditional woodworking tools, like
Oh,
they'll
right.
have
Yes.
like a
Yes.
table saw, and then they'll have a table saw. Just seems kind of like anybody that starts woodworking, that's kind of the tool
Yeah.
they start with.
Right.
And then maybe they built a piece of furniture,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then
Or a
like
box.
what's that?
Or a box.
Or a box, yeah.
Yeah.
Or one that's really really common is a cutting board. Like
Oh yeah.
that
Yeah.
was my first project. Like
Yeah.
it's like that's the project of like entry. Like in order to call yourself a woodworker, you have to make a cutting board. I don't
Hmm.
know. That's just
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of, it seems that way. Everybody starts there, but one way I've seen it is a progression that way. So like they get into like the woodworking, the bigger overarching woodworking hobby, and then they like explore kind of the basics, and they're like, wow, this CNC woodworking thing is really really cool,
Mm.
and they kind of progress into it that way. And
Okay.
that pathway is really interesting because so just like any technology that has been around for a long time, but comes down to the consumer, right? Like CNC machines have been around for a long, long time in
Sure.
industrial settings,
Oh, right.
and
Sure.
and now they come down, like the price point and the ease of entry has come down to where we can have a 3-axis CNC routing machine in our garage for you know $1,000 or whatever
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is. And but the interesting thing is, and I want to make this point, that just because you don't have a background in like tech or IT or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
the ease of entry. There's companies out there that have spent a lot of time and a lot of money developing software and products to lower that learning curve
Yeah.
And so people can get started. A traditional woodworker could learn how to use a CNC as just another tool in the shop, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
Um, so a lot of different pathways. And I think it is a progression, like you say, for some people. Um, but it seemed specifically, at least like the people that I communicate with, that we're mainly in the woodworking niche.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
makes sense. And there's a, also a strong correlation to like wood burning or
Yeah.
or some other sort of traditional engraving, if you will. I know we have it's a smaller niche, but we do have users in the Kittl community, for example, that will post, like a cutting board or something with their design engraved or wood burnt or stamped or something like that. And so
Yeah.
like that's also another progression. It's like, oh, well, let me actually like route this and engrave it and then like fill it with epoxy or something, like you can get
Yeah.
crazy with it.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So let me ask you next then, what does I want to transition into talking more about what you think a typical business model or business trajectory would be. Okay. So what if we're getting a CNC, or I know that's mostly what you do is the wood, but
Yep.
I'm gonna kind of throw laser engraving in here as
Yeah.
like kind of adjacent.
Yeah.
Um,
I kind of, that's fair. I kind of lumped them together.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, good. So what does a typical business model look like for a business like this or a career to get started, or in other words, what are some practical steps that someone can take to be successful? So we're past the previous kind of entry question I said is like, okay, who's this kind of meant for? Who might be successful? Who is the person that's got this other job but they want to do something more creative as a hobby but wants a hobby that pays for itself? So once we get past that hurdle, what are the steps that we take to make sure that this is successful?
Yeah. And so the first steps are going to kind of depend on, right, where you picked it up at.
Okay.
But and I talk a lot about this on, in what I do. It's kind of what I've become known for, my YouTube channel,
Yeah.
which is crazy, but um, it's, you know, a business transaction. I know that sounds like a big, scary thing, but think about like just people trading something of
Okay.
value, right? At the very core of it, like we have to create something that someone else finds valuable
Okay.
enough to pull money out of their pocket, and we exchange what we made for money. A long time ago they traded goats and
Sure.
stuff like that. But I always start there because I think it kind of gets lost in translation. Like I feel so many people are like, well, I don't know what to make and I don't know what to do and
Hmm.
I don't know the
Interesting.
next step. So I kind of strip everything down. If we can focus on creating value, specifically with our CNC machines for someone else. So, in order to do that, we need. I always talk about like starting. One of the best foolproof strategies is starting in a niche that we're comfortable with. So, let's say for
Okay.
me, I have a. I'll just use me as an example. I have an interest in fishing,
Oh, okay.
and um, so I have a CNC machine, and I I know about fishing. Like I know what someone else will find value. Someone that values fishing, I know what they could possibly find valuable. So it's kind of reverse engineering. Like, okay, what can I
Mhm.
create? What is it? Maybe it's fly fishing, and I create a tackle box that my flies can go in. Like, so they're going to find that valuable. So I create that. We exchange for money, and that's on a that's very simplistic example, but that's really what we're doing is we
Mhm.
need to create a product that someone else finds valuable. Now, it's a trap that a lot of people fall into because they create things that they find valuable, and so like someone that gets into CNC, like
Mhm.
you're like, wow, I want to create. something and I create something, but they didn't create it with someone else in mind,
With intent. It was
with
just like, I
intent.
want to make this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they try to sell it, whether that's at a craft show or whether that's on Etsy or something like that. And there's really no interest, because they didn't really, it's that's kind of like the artist thing. Like I'm going to design, like I'm going to paint a picture, right? And put it out into the world. And if you're doing that for monetary return, the chances of someone walking by and seeing your art, and like there's different avenues here,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
um, it's harder to sell a piece of artwork than it is like something
Practical.
practical. Exactly.
Well, I think there's a method for that second option that you said.
Yes.
It's I have this, I follow this account. It escapes me at the moment, but what this lady does is make extremely eclectic, vintagey looking lampshades from like recycled stuff that she goes and finds at like antique shops or thrift stores. And I probably would never buy one of the lampshades because I don't have the correct lamp to put it on. But at the same time, it's so entertaining to watch. And what
Mm,
she did was, or at least this may be me just conjecture, but I think what she did was it started as a hobby and got some virality through social media showing it
mm,
because it's entertaining, and then started taking custom commissions for that thing. So she
gotcha.
built a tribe or a following that desire that thing. So for example, yeah, I mean, so one of my favorite phrases, by the way, is reverse engineer. That's what we do for
Yeah.
YouTube. That's what we do for
Yes.
selling anything, right? We reverse engineer. What is the problem? What is the thing? What is the item, the product that someone would want to make their life easier, better, right? That's IKEA. That's what it is.
Yep. Yep.
So that's a different model. It's probably a more profitable model. But you can still be successful with this other model that you've mentioned, which is I'm going to make this thing and then I'm going to try to sell it. Well, it's good that you're passionate about that thing, and it's cool that you want to make that thing. But I think the mindset you have to take towards that is like, well, I'm going to just do this for fun, and we're going to see if anybody also wants it. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of very artistic artist approach.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm privy to vintage hand lettered design. So I put out work that is like that. I don't try to go and post, like, I mean, I sell fonts and stuff, but like, I don't draw a specific vintage bird and then try to sell it everywhere. I'm just drawing because I want to draw it. And if someone
Exactly.
happens to want to buy it, then perhaps I'll make prints or posters of it. Right. And I know that that's a little bit of an easy one because people love vintage stuff. So that might have been a bad example, but I think it's more relevant in what you're talking about, which is if I want to make I don't think the shortest path to success is the best. I don't want to say that it's not hard work. I mean, you can speak more into what the CNC entails,
Mhm.
but the model, which is the question that I asked you, is starting with something that you're passionate about, but not making something that's just like, I just feel like making this today, because that becomes more back into the hobby category,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So, but I really like what you've mentioned in something that you know well. That's a really great answer to a question someone asks, like, well, I don't know what to make. Okay, well, what do you do and know well? Like your example is fishing is perfect. Like, and this is great because I was going to ask you about like niche in the CNC, and you already went there. So it's like I am a firm believer. We talk a lot about print on demand on the channel,
Hmm.
which can be lucrative and successful, but not with like posting 100 completely different designs on completely different products at the same time. Like I feel like the shops that are the most successful are specific to one style that they've done the research, and they also know that thing well. So you could easily start a fly fishing print on demand shop with like shirts and hats and everything. It's about fly fishing. It's
Hmm.
like kind of the same thing. So what do you think? Like what are some thoughts you have around that idea?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I've thought a lot about it. Um, uh, so I have this saying. I don't know. It's been said before, but I didn't get it from any one place. But it's um, getting the right product in front of the right people at the right time, right?
Sure.
And the goal, no matter the product, whether it's fonts or whether it's fly fishing tackle box or whatever it is,
Yeah, yeah.
um, like it's about aligning those things, right? Like because you can have a let's just go back to the fly fishing example. You
Okay.
could have a fly fishing product, and you could, and it's a very good product, quality product at a good price point.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything is there. Let's
Mm-hmm.
assume it's a lot of work to get to that point, but let's assume we got to that point.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
if you're trying to sell that to an audience that isn't interested in that, you're going to have limited success.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and the same thing is true. Like if you, uh, uh, yeah, it's just about aligning your product with your audience. I feel like on my channel, I beat a dead horse, like with like just saying this, and but it is just about aligning our product with our audience and getting them in front of the right people. And so, for example, my wife and I, so I have a YouTube channel. It's my full time job, obviously, but we still sell. We designed these lanterns.
Mm.
Um, and they have LED, they're battery operated LED lights. They're
I was
laser.
gonna say because if they're made out of wood, we might come into some complications there.
And yeah, exactly. They all go up in flames, right?
No,
Um,
right?
but we designed this product over 3 years, completely just from iteration. Like it
Mm-hmm.
did not start as a lantern; it started as like a gift box,
Hmm.
and it just kept iterating. So it's been a successful product for us.
Nice.
And we know, like this, from trial and error, we know like where that item is going to sell best. We
Hmm.
know what audience that's going to sell best, and we know what time of year that's going to sell
Mhm.
best.
Wow.
So we actually we could grow this product line, but we just don't have the capacity. But we focus our time on September, October, November. Like that's when we sell that product. We don't sell it any other time of year. We go to the same 5 events every year. We fire up our Etsy shop starting in August,
Hmm.
and we close it down for the other 9 months out of the year.
Wow.
Just because we know that's where like our designs are holiday themed, and like snowflakes and different things like that. So and then we have a fall leaf lantern that does really really well,
Mm-hmm.
but we align that product with when people are looking for it. Um, and that's been very, very successful for us. Now, could we grow? Does that business model work on like a large scale? Could we scale it up going that way? Limited, but we could fill in. We could create spring designs and summer
Right.
designs and stuff like that. But we keep it small because we enjoy doing it. We enjoy getting out in the community and making and selling. And but that process, that business model, has been refined over 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So
So you mentioned one or two things I thought was interesting about um, where to sell and who's gonna basically getting in front of the people like you said that care or that want to buy it. So that's a question I didn't think about, but now I'm going to ask it. So you mentioned Etsy, um, which is you probably know as well as I do that Etsy started as a handcrafted, maker vintage, or well, they kind of started as this like vintage goods thing, which it wasn't. I mean, everything that's made new is like new, but anyway,
yeah,
handcrafted goods, right? Like
yeah,
you're
yeah,
saying, cutting boards and crafting and all this stuff, like books and whatever. So obviously you're saying you sell on Etsy and you
yeah.
sell a certain amount of time. So clearly there's an audience there that's looking for specific either keywords or handmade or wood or woodworking or whatever. They're looking for those kinds of things. But what I mean, let's assume that someone that this stage or at least watching in this video or wants to be at this point at this level. They know how to make some stuff and they're ready to sell some stuff. and maybe they have an Etsy shop and they've started listing some stuff, which obviously comes with the ability to package and ship that thing safely so that it arrives in one
Mm-hmm.
piece. Where else should people in this craft like look to sell? Is it just like pop-ups in your area? I do pop-ups in my area and I do quite well with my Cricut designs. I do bags and tote bags and shirts and coasters and all that stuff. I do that really, really successfully. I
That's
mean,
awesome.
I'm not making thousands of dollars, but I make a couple hundred on a weekend and it's fun, right? I just get to do it. And
Yep.
pop-ups are fun, man. You meet people and it's just like so many other vendors and that's cool. And I think you said something about vendors a second ago.
Yep.
But where else can we expect to like sell and make money? Like where are there like CNC specific sites to list your products for people to buy, or where should we sell our stuff? I should have just stopped talking and asked you where
No,
should
no
we sell our
worries.
stuff?
So yeah, there's a lot of different avenues, but so Etsy has proven, um, Etsy's top. So I'll just go through them first, and then we can talk about any of the ones. But
Sure,
Etsy,
sure.
in person, whether those are pop up shops, markets, uh, some people sell on Facebook, like face. I don't recommend it necessarily because, again, of the type of audience that's on there, they're usually looking for a deal. They don't value
Yeah,
like unique. So I
yeah.
usually stay away from that. Uh, they're but also the most okay. So those ways that I just mentioned are not the most successful.
Huh.
If you want to make money, if your goal is to make money,
Mhm.
the best way to do it is the old fashioned way of finding other businesses, finding people in your community, and saying, hey, look, and making an item that is has making an item according. We talked about reverse engineering. So let's say I go to a local boutique, and or in my local area, and I strike up a conversation with them, create a relationship, and say, hey, look, I can make this for you. Um, and so business, it gets back to the most successful sales channels are the ones that are the most personal,
Hmm.
like, and building business relationships.
Now,
Uh,
when you say just sorry before you go on,
yeah.
when you say go to a business and say I can make this for you, what are you talking about? Making something that they will purchase from you for them to use, or make something to be sold in their shop? What do you mean?
So either.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, I know several people in the CNC community. They sell to restaurants. Like,
Oh, interesting.
so whether it's like, I've got a friend in Houston who makes these unique like sushi trays for the sushi restaurant.
That is cool.
And so he's been successful doing that. And so it's finding those needs, and like, how can we add value? I think, okay, I'm going to get a slightly off topic, but this is so important.
Okay.
So many times when we're making things, we are focused on extracting value, and that's our main goal. Like, and that's how we judge success. Like, I made $100,
Okay.
or or you know like, and we're looking like how much, not how much we can take. Like, I'm not saying it's has bad motives, but that's like how much value we extracted is how we judge like success and failure.
Okay.
But actually, it's really how that's a so if we made $100, we actually provided $100 in value to someone else.
Yeah.
And so that's like, if we come from the product standpoint, like, what do I make with these local businesses? It's like, okay, well, how can I add value to what they're already doing? How can I
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
you see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how can I, like, because they're not going to give me money unless I create value for them,
Yeah.
and unless I add value. And so when we're thinking about products that we can make, like, okay, maybe I can make a product that a local business buys from me and they resell. Um, I'll probably sell it to them for less because I'm the middleman, right?
Yeah, and they need to make a profit.
And they need to make a profit, but I wouldn't necessarily have access to. I don't have that customer base to sell retail, so I'm okay with that.
What
But
you would make up in volume would be the
exactly,
perceived value to you, and the value to them would be whatever profit they make off of the increased sale. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah. So I don't. I try to speak in like I just want to speak in like simple terms of creating value, and I hear from so many people like oh well, you know people don't like my products, or my prices are too high, or I can't get people's attention, like no one's paying attention to me. Well, I don't mean to be like too abrasive, but the truth is that that particular person doesn't find what you're doing valuable to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so if our goal, right, we talked about you like doing pop-up shops because
Yeah.
it's fun, you make
It's fun.
bucks. But so there are different options, but if our goal is to like simply just make money and grow a business, then that needs to be our sole focus, right? Is creating value for other people, because when we create value for other people, for customers, like that value is going to return to us, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When someone is gonna, let's say they take your advice and they kind of go down that path, what advice can you give them for starting that kind of conversation? Like, what does that look like? Are you just walking in to a shop and saying like, let me speak to your manager, or like what I mean? Like, I feel like sometimes that can be pretty daunting. Like I was in a distillery the other day, or not the other day, a month or so ago, local distillery we have here. And I was looking at their merch design because, I mean, their product is really good. They have, several gin, vodka, and some whiskey. And I always like to try to buy something. If I'm not going to buy a bottle, I try to buy a glass or a, shirt or something just to like support.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, dang, I would not buy these shirts because they're not they're not reminiscent of what the bottles look like or what they stand for. And it's kind of up my alley because it was vintagey. And so the manager happened to be there. And I was like, who makes your shirts? Like, would you, I can show you some stuff I've done for another winery that I did, like I tried to be a little bit more casual about it. I don't need any extra side work really. I'm busy enough, but at the same time, it's local. I'm passionate about bourbon and whiskey. And I was like, it would be fun to make some merch that I think looks good that people would wear. So, and he gave me his business card and exchanged email and whatever. But I guess that's like the ideal thing because the manager was there.
Yeah.
The bar was not very heavy.
Yeah.
Casual. So like, that's like the ideal situation. Mm-hmm. So you could say, oh, well, Drew just got lucky. Probably. So, I painted this fantasy story now, which is probably not realistic. How do you go about starting these conversations with local businesses?
Yeah, I think the key is that you were relational, like in your approach. Like It wasn't just like you didn't go in and be like, "Hey, your
shirts suck."
Your shirts, you insulted him, right?
Yeah, immediately.
Like that doesn't work well. But I think just on a human level, just building relationships, and maybe let's say that the manager wasn't in there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it takes a couple times to going in.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you don't pitch him the first time. Or the second time. So fitting for this show, I frequent a coffee shop in my hometown, and I've been going there now for about a year and a half, and I didn't know the people at first. Like I did not know anybody in there, but just by going in and getting a coffee every day and sitting there doing a little work, and like I know I made friends like
Nice.
the man,
Yeah.
like with the baristas and with the manager, they know me. They even know like my fam. Like I know this is a little deeper than what you were talking about, but
Yeah. No. Yeah. No worries.
yeah, like I could go in there and have like strike up a conversation now and be like, hey, like I saw, maybe your coffee and serving your they know what I do. That's the main thing. And so if they see a need, they're probably going to approach me, just because I'm there all the time. But two, like I could be like, hey, do you want to redo your coffee serving like platters, like
Mm.
your cappuccino platters, um,
Or the
and
little trays that the menu come on. I noticed a lot of
yeah,
ones here. The menu that the paper is on is wood, right?
yeah,
It's like
yeah, it's like
classic,
laser
right?
engraved. Yep. And you can do some really cool things with fonts and like really offer something one of a kind to them, right?
Ve-
And in coffee shops, prime example, they're trying to create a feeling, a vibe, of the space. So matching that, something that they couldn't get anywhere else from like restaurant.com, like, could be really, really powerful, you know?
Hmm.
Um, so I think being relationship driven, like genuine, not into, and now I have a much deeper relationship. You don't need to have this deep of a relationship with the
Yeah.
coffee shop as I do. That's not the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But that was just an example. But if you go into a place a few times and you support their business, like you did, you went into and you try to buy something of theirs. They see that you're invested in kind of what they're doing or interested in what they're doing. Natural conversations just happen. They say, I've had so many times, like I don't even have to pitch them on an idea. Like they just say, hey, you do this. You work with wood, right? I'm really looking for like a custom. I've thought about this for a long time. I'm looking for a custom sign to go in this space. And like they literally sell themselves, like because
Yeah.
they have a need
Hmm. Hmm.
and they know that you can meet that. So I wish I had like
The
a
blueprint.
well, so yeah, but I wish I had like some like extreme um like secret, like this is how you do it. But so many times, and this isn't a cop out, but so many times you just start a conversation.
Yeah,
Um,
the secret is consistency and hard work. There's no secret sauce to any of this, I don't think.
there
People
isn't.
think so. People think so, but you still got to fire up the machine and make the thing, you know?
Yes. Yeah, and I think um I think like it is daunting to walk into a place
Yeah.
and like in your head and be like, okay, I'm going to try to sell them on this. And I don't think you do that at all. I think it's a
Mm,
bad approach. You're not going to get the results that you probably want. But if you walk into a place because you're like that's a really cool shop. I wonder what it's about. And you walk in and you meet people and you talk and you share like, hey, look, this is what I do. Um, a lot of times the first question people ask you, hey, oh, what do you do? Well, hey, I got some pictures on my phone. This is what I do,
yeah. Yeah.
Um, and and eventually the conversation moves to that point of like, like, well, hey, if you ever need anything, let me know. If you're ever looking for some new ideas that I think your customers would love, let me know.
Nice.
Um, yeah,
Nice. Yeah, it's
yeah,
the same kind of thing I said with the shirts. I was like, hey, if you ever want to do a little bit of a different approach, a different style, I have, a lot of feedback from people that wear shirts from the bourbon and whiskey community. I can help you out. Like I
yeah,
just said the same thing. So
yeah. And I
that's
think
good to hear.
one more like power tip, I guess. Here's the extra secret, right? I'm joking, but is figuring out what they value. I know I've said that a lot, but thinking about like what does the manager, what is the owner, like what are they trying to accomplish? If you can
Mhm.
learn what they're trying to accomplish, and then
Yeah.
you can come beside them, and help them, like accomplish what they're. So maybe they want, like back to your idea with the t-shirts. Now there's a seed in his mind that if he ever wants to improve his t-shirts, t-shirt designs, he knows somebody, you
Hmm.
know, and so, but maybe he's not at that point yet,
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
but maybe he will be. And
Sure.
so, yeah, helping other people solve their problems or get make progress towards their goals um, helps us like achieve our goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last kind of question, based around selling, pricing, because
Yeah.
people struggle with this, I'm sure,
Oh
in
yes.
your community, and it's going to be the big, someone that's this may be pretty new to a lot of users in the Kittl community that aren't probably doing this, but the ones that do and they have some experience in CNC or laser engraving or whatever, that have made it this far in the video are hanging on to that big ticket question, which is like, well, I need help like pricing my services or my products, because it's kind of a it's well, it's always a both and people forget about that. Even with designing something in a computer, there's still value attributed to that design that happened versus just the physical thing you put
Mhm.
the design on. So people forget about that. But it's more so, let's just say it's enhanced in having to create and then actually craft and use your hands to put something together in CNC and then price it. So without getting too technical of a breakdown, like here's what I charge for menus, here's what I charge for
Right.
plates, here's what I charge for serving trays. What are the strategies or mindsets that help someone in pricing their CNC products and services? Because it can be a both and a lot of times it is both.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a tough one. This is the big hairy question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I always like to take the fear out of things,
Mm,
and the first strategy is you don't, or actually you won't get your price right the first time.
nice. Good
Um,
advice. Good advice.
and in my community, what I've ran into is that people think of a price as like a fixed number, like almost like a um, like there's a correct answer for the price. Like I have to get the correct answer, like almost like it's like a
Like based on like material cost versus plus time plus whatever is like this, like
well,
that's
yeah. So, but just from a philosophy, like a pricing philosophy standpoint, there is no correct answer to a price. Like,
hmm.
um, so in pricing can be fluid. Like you can change your price. You don't have to get it right the very first time. Like people
Sure.
might not buy it, or people might laugh at you. But you'll learn from it. So I just want to take first before I share like a formula or anything. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's okay to get it wrong, and it's okay
Mm,
to like adjust and just to take the pressure off of like, okay, there's no like exact formula that spits out a price number,
mm.
um, but with that being said, we need to know what we have into our product, right? Into the
Okay.
creation process. So
Okay.
we need to have, and this is specifically in my community, we need to know our material costs are always a big thing, right? Wood. Um, and we need to know our time that we have
Mm-hmm.
into it. One
Mm-hmm.
of the hardest parts with this, actually, the hardest part is how do we value our time?
Yes. Yep.
Everybody values their time differently. Um, so, how do we value our time? And then, uh, so materials, time, times, I always like to times by 1.5. 1.5, so basically a 50% markup of our time and materials is to cover, electricity costs, like just the stuff that you really can't put your finger on, like
Interesting.
exactly. But also a margin. A lot of people forget. I made this mistake when I was first starting. I would charge materials plus my time, and that was my final price. But we need to have a margin in there, because our again, I guess it depends on your approach. If you're just doing it for fun, maybe not as important. But if you're doing this as a business and you want it to grow, you need money to reinvest into your business.
Money for the mission. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So those are the three components: materials, time times a 1.5 equals what I call the floor price. That's like the bare minimum that you can charge to be quote unquote profitable.
So you've taken the cost of the materials
Mhm.
and your time, the attributed cost to your time, and then
Yep.
you've multiplied that by 1.5% is what you said, right? So zero or point, yeah, 0.015 or whatever it is to
Yeah,
get your floor price is what you said.
yeah. So if you let's just simple math. $10 in material cost, $10 in your time. That's not accurate.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Like it's so cheap.
Yeah, yeah. But that's $20 just for simple math, right? That's $20, and we times that by 1.5. That's going to equal what? $30? Yeah,
Give or take. Yeah,
yeah,
let's whatever that percentage is plus, yeah. So I
yeah.
don't
So
know.
thirty
There's a
dollars. So
decimal in there because of, yeah, but anyway, let's
yeah,
just use
so
round numbers. Yeah.
yeah. If you're using round numbers, so just for example, so for $30, that's the bare minimum we can sell our product for in order to be profitable. Now, there's a lot of different strategies. I am all for the reason I don't go any further because so I'm in what you would consider rural Kentucky.
Oh,
Um,
nice. I'm from Kentucky.
are you cool?
Mhm.
Cool. When you talked about bourbon, I'm basically in bourbon country.
Oh, nice. Great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know, like 10 miles from Jim Beam. So,
Oh, great. Nice.
um, and but what I sell, like if you take the same exact product, what I sell it for in rural Kentucky is not going to be the same thing you sell it for in LA.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
for me to stand here and be like, this is the formula and this is what you sell it for, it just it's not accurate. So I always say like that's your floor price, um, and then we need to adjust for the market that we're in, and we did. That's where experience comes in. That's where just local knowledge is going to come in. I always tell people to take like the real estate approach,
Mm.
where they always look for like three comparables, and maybe they're not exact, but like okay, like that the product I made is like this, and that's what that's selling for. Um, and so taking that information and adjusting it with our price is kind of how I come up with like a market specific price.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we have somewhat of at least a starting model of good things to keep in mind: material cost, time attributed cost, kind of multiplying it and having this margin, and then obviously you're saying where does this fall in the actual market prices I'm seeing,
Yep.
and then we also kind of think about it in where I'm selling to, right? So
Yep.
someone that hires me for a commission maybe from central Kentucky is kind of one price, but someone that hires me from New York gets a different price, or LA or whatever, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to do different work. If Nike came to you and said, we want you to make shoes made out of wood, you're gonna charge them a ton versus like a local startup shoe brand down the way in Kentucky that says, I want some flip flops made of whatever. Let's just
Yeah. Yeah.
in the shoe comparison.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, but the concept's there for sure. I think uh, someone told me once, a friend told me that like a business transaction is nothing more than two people trying to get on the same page when it comes to like perceived value.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
And so that's the hard part is value is perceived differently by everybody, depend in so many different factors, right? Um, Geographical, uh, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. Okay, so last question. I want to talk a little bit just about how Kittl factors into this. Like
yeah,
people that may not realize, you can do some really cool stuff with utilizing Kittl with crafting machines, not just print on demand or not just a logo design or not just whatever. So what what has your experience been like using Kittl with what you do? What are the things you kind of do with it? What can people expect? And or why do you like it? Just what do you think?
Yeah. So when I first discovered Kittl, I think last year, over a year ago,
Mhm.
and um, I thought like the CNC community, like this is perfect for the CNC community.
Really?
Oh my goodness! Like I honestly, and that's why I was so excited to discover it because the the biggest in CNC specifically, the biggest learning curve is the design side. Like how okay, I've got this. So we talked about it, like making products and stuff. Like okay, I like how do I actually design that in my computer
Mhm.
design software
Mhm.
and like how do I actually create that? So like software is the hardest, is the biggest learning curve. Like how do I actually design and like draw that up in my software? So um, Kittl opens up obviously with the many designers and designs. Like it just opens up this world of like possibility.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the first project I did, and you can look back on my YouTube channel,
Mhm.
um, was like this epoxy inlaid American. It was a piece of wall art, but I made it for a friend who's in the military, and did a different colored epoxy inlay. So I used
Oh,
the.
I did watch that video. Yeah,
Did you
that
watch
was
that one?
super
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, I did watch that one.
yeah, and that video went over really, really. I mean, it's just mind blowing that I took that was a design from Kittl.
Mhm.
I didn't design it. I modified it
Modified
and
it, yeah. You
yep,
used the template and yeah.
yep. I used the template, modified it, and then put it into my CNC software
Mhm.
and did all the tool paths and everything, carved it, and then filled all those different layers with different colored epoxy. And I mean,
Yeah,
the
that
end
was
result
super
was
cool.
it was super cool. So um, just having something, we all struggle with looking at a blank page. Like,
Mm.
what do I, how do I start? Right. But taking like templates and being able to add different features and make it one of a kind design really simply. Um, we talked a lot about like creating value, but when you can create one of a kind designs and then you can create a bunch of those, that's what I love about CNC is like, so the hard part, the time consuming part is the design side.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because once I have the design, it's probably the same way in print on demand and in all these different, like once you have the design, it's replicable, right? And so I see the world of CNC like it's still underused. I don't.
Hmm.
The CNC community is still sleeping on it um, with the possibilities, and I guess yeah. So
That's crazy. Man, that's awesome to hear. That is
yeah,
so cool. I don't personally have any CNC equipment or machines. I'm waiting to meet the friend that has one. But hey, if I'm in Kentucky again soon, which I will be, we should do a little video maybe and
yeah, for sure. Hit me up. Hit
that'd be
me up.
super cool.
I'm right in the middle of the state, so
Nice.
yep.
Okay, so last thing is I want to give you the floor to talk about anything coming up for you. Where can people follow you? Where can they, do you teach specifically? Do you have a community? Do you have, any groups or anything? So feel free to kind of advertise any and all where people can learn more. So I can get those links down in the description.
Yeah, cool. So obviously, you already have my channel linked. Andy Bird Builds on YouTube is
Mm. Hmm.
my main channel, but I'm also on Instagram,
Okay.
and that's the second one that where I spend most of my time. Where you can reach out, send me a message, and I can actually respond there.
Mm.
But I do have a community. I have the CNC Inner Circle, which is my own private community, and all this stuff can be found on andybirdbuilds.com.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's about 50 of us in there that every one of us are in some phase of that CNC money making journey.
Nice.
And so it's a really, really cool community of people all over the United States and world. We've had a couple members from Australia, and so it's just really, really cool to gather. It's an uplifting community, positivity, share. So it's really, really neat. And then the big one is, which it's currently closed, but you can sign up on the waiting list. Is just last week, I released the CNC Side Hustle, which is my online course.
Oh, nice.
So it will be opened again in August, kind of the second go around. And that takes you from like someone that it's actually from someone that doesn't own a CNC but wants to, all the way to making a sustainable side hustle revenue.
Wow.
And even take it further. Like the concepts don't have to stop there. You could even take it to make it your main hustle. So, and that's on andybirdbuilds.com as well, but it also has its own website, the cncsidehustle.com. So,
okay, perfect. Well, I'll get all those links from you. Everyone watching, thank you so much. Please don't forget to subscribe to Kittl. It'll just take you 1 second. If you've made it this far in the video and you haven't subscribed, which is unlikely, please do. It'll take 1 second. It's a button right there. Go over to Andy's channel. Check him out if you're interested in that, or even if you're not into CNC. I love watching it because it's so cool. It's so cool to have an instant gratification physical thing that you've made. So go check out his channel. They're just entertaining to watch. So as well, the last thing, if you can drop a comment down below, everyone that's watching, if you have a question, if you want to dive deeper into something, we mentioned something, Andy said something, I said something that you don't understand or want to know more of, please drop a comment, because that gives Andy more videos to make, me videos to make. We can do follow-up conversations. So don't hesitate to drop a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.